Good morning, class. I'm going to go ahead and sort of do this short. It's probably going to be a short lecture video since I don't really see anybody right now online that's joined who needs any type of tutoring at this point. Probably just go through a little bit of the happenings for this week and for week 5. I'm not sure how many folks have actually had a chance to really go over the readings for this week. So again, there's notes about those little prizzies or PowerPoints, however you want to say. I don't want to go too much into the reading. I mean, we can talk a little bit about it. It makes it easier if I have more than just me online to sort of discuss the literature, because otherwise I'm just sort of talking to the camera here. And, you know, it's really helpful if you have a chance to at least read through some of these stories at least one time around. That way you can kind of understand what I'm talking about when I do some of the lectures. But again, if you're having any issues with any of the stories, please email me, let me know, join these sessions when you can. Because otherwise I'm just assuming that you're reading the work and you're looking at the notes and you're checking your emails and you're going, you know, maybe elsewhere, other YouTube videos or other sort of study guide sites to sort of get your comprehension of the story, you know, to work through any kind of kinks that you may have. And, you know, by the time it comes quiz time, test time, discussion time, paper time, then I'm sort of knowing whether you're on track with your interpretation of the reading or the analysis of your reading by the time I get done grading your work. For the most part, I will say the literary workshop, I think was really an insightful dialogue that most of y'all, those that did turn something in, I did have a few folks that just didn't turn anything in. Which is never good for a grade, right? A 0. And I can't, you know, stress that enough. Each 0 that you make, it's going to bring your grade down at least 20 points. So to put that more in perspective, if you have 3 zeros, which I have some folks in some of the classes of mine that already have 3 zeros from week 1, week 2, week 3, they're already at a 40 or lower as their average moving into week 5. We've already been in college. This week is our 4th week. So we've basically been in fall semester for 1 month. If you're at a 40 or lower 1 month in, and we still have the rest of September, all of October, all of November, and about a week and a half in December, I just, you know, honestly, I just don't see how you're going to be able to pull that 40 up. One, we don't have enough assignments, because for each 0 you make, you have to at least make 100 just to pull, you know, one of those grades up to, you know, close to passing, which in this case, close to passing would be a 70. So if you have 3 zeros, you have to make 15 100s moving forward. We don't really have 15 assignments moving forward starting week 5, right? So what I would strongly recommend at that point, and I don't like to see anybody have to withdraw or drop a class, but I mean, if you're 4 weeks in, and again, if you're really failing 40 or lower, you probably want to consider possibly talking to your advisor, talking to the college registrar. If you're dual enrollment student, you're going to have to go through your high school coordinator. But if you, I mean, I'm not saying it can't be done, but I mean, you could probably still, depending on how low it is, you could probably pull it up to a passing grade, within the 70 range, possibly a B, but chances are it's going to be hard to get a B and A in this class if you're already 40 or lower at this point. I mean, I haven't seen anybody in any of my classes that have done that, and I've been doing this for quite a while. So, I mean, if you're sort of borderline, 50 or 60, you still have the opportunity, you still have a chance. But generally, when you're 40 or lower, it's really hard to even pull it up to a 70. And I say that because we have that first, I don't know if you had a chance to look at some of my emails I sent out within the last week or so, but the first checkpoint is happening in 2 days. So all your instructors, whether you're in person, whether you're online, no matter how many classes you have, if you're taking a class through Coastal Pines, we have what is called the first Blackboard grade checkpoint. And basically what that means is by 6 o'clock on Thursday, whatever your grade shows in Blackboard, that's your current average heading into week 5. And that's going to be the grade we're going to submit to our higher ups, our deans, high school coordinators get to look at it, the register. It's not an official grade, it's sort of in an unofficial capacity. But basically what it's telling everybody, including you, including me, including everybody else that gets to see it, is this is what your progress, this is what your current grade is 30 days into the semester. So in a lot of ways, it's sort of like a little pinch. It's a wake-up call, because in 4 more weeks, when it gets close to midterm, where again, it's sort of a little bit of an unofficial capacity as a second grade checkpoint would be submitted. If you're 40 or lower by the time we get to week 8, I would strongly probably suggest that you withdraw or drop the class, because again, the next 7 weeks is not going to be the easiest in the class, and whatever you've been doing over the last 60 days, it's just not working to your advantage to pull your grade up. So just keep that in mind. So there's 3 checkpoints. 2 are really unofficial, sort of give you that kick in the butt, motivate you. The first one happens on Thursday. The second one will happen during midterm week, which I believe it has to go on the 14th of October. And then the one that's really going to matter the most, the one that goes on your transcript, will be the one that has to go, I believe, on December 15th as your final semester grade. So that's the one that's going to sort of haunt you whether you don't do so well, or it's going to be really beneficial if you do so well, because that's the one that's, other colleges and that type of stuff are going to look at the most. What did you make as a complete semester grade from August to December? So again, there's pros and cons about having to drop a class. Each class that you usually have to withdraw or drop from, it will delay your graduation process. Generally, at least a semester, depending on how many classes you have to drop. Dropping too many classes don't necessarily look good on your transcript as it relates to financial aid and scholarships and that type of stuff. So I would be very leery and weary and mindful about dropping too many classes all at once, because again, no matter what your degree is, whether you transfer or not, chances are you're going to have at least 1102 to still be able to get your degree at some point. All right, so let's look a little bit. I'm going to share my screen here, and we will sort of go through some of the happenings for this particular week. And again, I'm going to try to blow this up if possible, without knocking everything off the page. But you can kind of see what I'm looking at. If you've been in your Blackboard page, being that we're basically going on 5 weeks now, you should know how to manipulate Blackboard to your benefit. So week 4 is this week. Remember, the pages here are basically the pages in your e-text, supplemental information that will help you not only possibly with some of the stuff that you're going to be talking about or learning about symbolism and conflict as it relates to not only Poe's The Black Cat, but Jackson's The Lottery, but also the two stories for next week, and for really the 6 stories that we've already read up to this point, weeks 1 through 3. Remember, your close reading essay 1, if you want to call it fiction essay, is due this Sunday. We'll talk a little bit about the Dropbox and where to go about finding that. You have a 11:59 deadline to turn that in by this Sunday. You don't have to wait until 11:59 to turn it in. You can basically turn it in at any point this week. I will say it'll probably be sometime next week, depending on how much I can get done with some of the. I still have some of the literary workshop pieces still left to grade. So I've had a lot of essays come in from my 1010 and my 1101 class as well. So I'm trying to get everything grade-wise caught up before Thursday. So really, anything that you turn in after Thursday probably won't get graded. It'll be counted for the next checkpoint that's going to happen about the 2nd or 3rd week of October. So really what the grade is, the first grade checkpoint is looking for is weeks 1 through 4 up until basically this Thursday, because I'm going to try to get those in before I leave campus at 6 o'clock. So this week we have the Poe's The Black Cat, we have Jackson's The Lottery, both that sort of have a little bit of that dystopian and gothic themes going on. A lot of folks like Poe. I don't know if too many people know that Poe did short stories and he does poetry. Some folks like the stories over the poetry, some folks like the poetry over the stories. Some folks just like Poe and they like anything that he writes. And being that we're getting close to Halloween, I think these two stories are really, they really feel the atmosphere. I mean, we're getting here the middle of September. Hopefully the weather will start to cool down, especially in southeast Georgia. The leaves will start to turn a little bit. I mean, the further north you go, you start really to see the fall season, Macon, Atlanta, that type deal, the Carolinas. So hopefully this will get a little bit of that fall feel, Halloween feel, maybe as you're reading it. If you also look, I went ahead and opened up week 5. Now, again, like I said before, you can take each week at your own pace as long as you follow the deadlines and get all the reading and get your assignment in before the 11:59 Sunday deadline, you're good. If you want to read ahead, this will be beneficial in a couple ways. One, it'll help you, study a little bit more for that fiction exam that's going to be due on the 26th, and I'll show you where that's at as well, of September. So that's not this Sunday, it's next. But it also gives you 2 additional stories. If you're still having a hard time, I'm hoping really by now, because I've only seen a couple drafts from some of y'all here in 1102 as it relates to that first essay. I'm hoping by now that you've already picked out of weeks 1 through 4 a particular passage from one of those stories that you really want to closely read and do your essay on. Now, if you're still sort of fishing, you got a little bit of time, but your time is starting to run out. That's why I went ahead and opened up Walker and Steinbeck. So you can go ahead and read, take your notes, study for that as it relates to not only the exam, but if you need a different story because you don't like the stories we've been reading thus far, maybe you have to pick one of these as it relates to the passage. So you can read ahead if you want, or you can kind of follow it Sunday to Sunday. It's up to you, as long as you get the weekly assignments done. You print out anything that you need to print out, because again, at midnight on Sunday, this week 4 folder is going to disappear. Next week, midnight on the 26th, week 5 folder is going to disappear. So if you don't turn something in, you're going to be sort of out of luck. And if there's nothing in there that's turned in, Blackboard is going to give you a 0 because there's nothing there, and it's just going to grade it as being an empty slot. And we can't have empty slots in our grade book. So it's going to give you that 0 if you don't turn something in. Remember about late work. Because I got 4 other classes, 3 of them or 2 of them besides this one, I have 3 online and 2 in class. I just don't have, at this point, college level 1102 is basically your sophomore level English class. We just don't have time to be hunting folks down, right? You have a 7-day period to get most things in, especially the little weekly quizzes and discussion posts and workshops. The fiction essay, you basically had really since week 2, you can even say week 1, you basically had 4 weeks to get that fiction essay in, to get help with that fiction essay, to use smart thinking, to send me drafts, because I'm going to have to cut the draft period off at some point as well. You've had 5 weeks to study for the fiction exam. So you've had time to get help, to email, to join these sessions. I do in-person tutoring sessions Monday and Wednesday mornings from 10:15 to 11:15 in the library here at the Camden campus. So if you want to attend a live session, if you're close by, right, if you live in Camden or St. Mary's or something, you can just let me know. You have to follow the whole deal with COVID protocol. You'd have to wear your mask and stuff, but we can meet in the library. But as it relates to the final day that I can really look at drafts, because today's the 14th, so it's due on Sunday. So if you look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We basically got 5 days. You can count 6 today if you want. Really, I would say probably by midnight this Friday, if you don't send a Microsoft Word attachment of your draft to my email by midnight Friday, then because Saturday and Sunday I'm really going to be in grading mode. If folks want to go ahead and submit their essay in earlier, I'm going to go ahead and start trying to grade them Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to submit a draft of your fiction essay, you need to do it between now and midnight the 17th, which is Friday. I would probably, smart thinking, you can use them all the way up until the 19th if you really feel confident that they're going to be able to get your draft back. In the past, it usually takes anywhere from 1 to 2 days. So I don't know if I would wait until the 18th to send smart thinking a draft, because chances are you may get it back later on the 18th and you may not get it back until the 21st. And by then it's too late, because the Dropbox is going to go bye-bye at midnight on the 19th. So just be wary of that. I would probably say if you haven't submitted a draft of smart thinking by the 17th, then you're really kind of pushing it, because I don't know what their weekend schedule is like. I don't know how many people they have on staff over the weekend, whether they work weekends. I would just try to submit something to them maybe during the week, correct what they want you to correct, and then send me that new draft after you finish correcting what smart thinking wants you to correct. Now, again, your first draft to me and to them is probably not going to be your best draft. You should expect that. You probably want us both to sort of mark the heck out of it. You would rather have all that red comments and stuff on your rough draft than if you just turned it in on the 19th and not get help from it, and then have all those red comments as your final feedback and stuff. So work smarter, don't work harder. Again, you still have a little bit of time, but your days are your time limit's starting to run out on that. And then you have, the following week to sort of prepare for that fiction exam, which we talked about in previous videos over the last few weeks. So if you look at the week 4, again, I give you notes to both of the stories. You click on the hyperlinks to take you to the stories. So again, unless you've really read both stories for this week, I'm not going to get too involved with those right now. I do see that there's somebody anonymous online. I'm not sure who that is. But if they have questions, if they read both stories and they have any issues with them, we can discuss that once, if you want to turn your mic on and talk, we can discuss that. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of let you get the chance, because again, this is Tuesday. We're only really 3 days into the new week. I'm assuming nobody probably had a chance to really read both stories yet. But again, if you need help after you read the story and read the notes, you can always email me and we can talk about it. We can come back to a Blackboard Collaborate or a Teams. I don't want to go too far in the lecture with talking about those stories if you haven't really read them, because that may just provide more confusion on your part. It makes it easier if there's multiple students on here that have read the literature, then we can really discuss and talk about it without feeling, without feeling like one person is sort of left out in the wind, so to speak, because they don't know what we're talking about. Again, I moved over. Hopefully, by week 2, you went ahead and downloaded and copied these paper instructions, but I kind of went ahead and moved them back over in case you need to re-look at them. There's that Model A essay. This is a student who was in one of my classes in the past that made a 90 or higher on this particular assignment. So if you haven't downloaded that paper and looked at some of the comments and stuff, definitely do that, because that will sort of guide you and help you, especially as it relates to the MLA format. I think some of the folks that were losing points over the last, at least the last 2 weeks on their assignments, are just not following the MLA format that I sent out in email week 1. So you might need to go back and check your Coastal Pines email and look for that MLA format for essays and for assignments, because some of you are just, you're not having a proper title, or you're missing the last name and the page number in the top right hand corner of every page. You don't have the header. You forget how to use paragraph breaks. A lot of this stuff you've learned in 1101, or you should have. So it's really nothing new as it relates to the format. I give you information about Exam 1, which again we talked about over the last 2 or 3 weeks. You can click on that and look sort of at a sample question. I give you a essay rubric, and this is basically how I'm going to grade your first essay. So you might want to use that also as a checkpoint before you submit your final draft, to make sure you're sort of crossing your T's and dotting your I's, and make sure everything that's on that rubric has sort of been addressed in your paper. Otherwise, if it's not, then you're probably going to be losing some points. So that rubric is up there. There'll probably be a different rubric when it comes to the poetry essay about a month from now in October. So just keep it mindful and look out for those rubrics. And then we have the drop box. So this is what you basically have to do. You click on this, and it gives you the points, it gives you the deadline. You want to click the plagiarism tool. Again, with this particular paper, you're not having to go out and use secondary research sources. If you do, then I would recommend that you go to places like Galileo from your library website, or the college library website, or some of those databases, because some of these places online, if they're not .edu or .org or .gov, you can't really trust. You can't trust them. Right? We don't know the experts. Sometimes we don't even know who wrote it. It could have been some Yahoo that was 12 years old that just sort of copied and pasted and tweaked it up from Wikipedia. We just don't know. So it's better to go to educational sites to get information. But just keep in mind, the close reading really is supposed to be with you, that text, that particular quotation or passage from the text, and any kind of information from your own brain. I'm not really looking for what some so-called scholar on Google or Quizlet or Wikipedia or Google, Cliff Notes or Spark Notes or eNotes have to say. I'm really looking, what do you have to say about that particular passage you chose from that particular short story of yours? I don't really care about the other riffraff. So that's why I say kind of leave that stuff out. But if you do use it, like if you're quoting from a secondary source, again, remember the rules from that research paper that you should have written in 1101, because you're quoting short stories in, book chapters and journal articles like you would prose writing. And I give you some information. I've sent out some stuff about how to do that over the last few weeks. So make sure that you're understanding how to do the MLA in-text and parenthetical. After your quotation, you need to have the parentheses, you need to have the author's last name and the page number or the paragraph number. And then you also have to have that same sort of entry cross-reference on your works cited page. So you don't want to put anything on your works cited page that you don't actually quote and use in your paper. That's sort of like a big red flag when I see a works cited page that has 15 sources and you only use 2. Well, the other 13 you must either plagiarized or you're not doing it correctly or something. And this particular tool is going to find that out real fast. Once you click on that and you go up to browse your computer, you're basically just going to find your file. You're going to double click it. If nothing attaches here, meaning you don't see the link title and you don't see this little image, then whatever you're sending is not going to be that file. You're probably just sending me something blank or something nothing at all. And if you do that, it's going to grade it as a 0 too, because there's nothing there. The other thing is you really need to have a doc or docx. All these other things, I can't guarantee that I can pull them up and read them. If I can't download it and read it, then it's going to be a 0. PDFs I can read, but I can't mark them up. So if you just want me to read it and give you a grade, then send it as a PDF. Most folks want the feedback so they can approve whatever they need to approve before they get to SA2. And you're going to be able to see this safe assign stuff. And I'll show you that here momentarily, because once you click on there and submit, I'm going to back up and go to another class real quick. Let me go here real quick. Let me pull it up. I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute because I don't want to share everybody else's grades in that particular class. But I'll show you what I mean, because you can check your own plagiarism. If you're doing it, you want to kind of stop before I have to actually grade it, because the first offense is going to be a 0. You don't want that to happen at all. All right, I think I can show this without showing everybody's name on it, or at least the grade. It doesn't really matter so much about the name. So this is from 1101 class of mine. They had to submit their first narrative essay. But when you turn it in, you're going to see this thing that's going to be up here in purple. It says safe assign. Notice how it says 0% overall match. That's a good thing. So anything 10% or lower, or anything closer to 0 in that number field, is not your grade on the paper. It's the grade if you're plagiarizing or not. Where you have to start to worry is when that number gets closer to 100. So really anything 11% or higher, you have to start worrying about it. A lot of times it's going to pull up, common phrases and words. I usually try to go in there and see if I can bring the number down. Where the problem really exists is, once you start getting 30% or higher. Let's say there's a paper that you turned in, somebody turns in on Sunday, and it's 60%. Well, if I go in there and I can't pull that 60% down close between 0 and 10, like if I can only make it come down from 60 to 52, there's a problem. And it's going to show me what that problem is, because you can do this as well. You click on this little arrow going down, and you're going to want to see the originality report. And it's going to basically tell you this person has original thought, creative thinking. They didn't have to copy and paste or buy a paper or borrow a paper from somewhere. But had it been, had they copied something from a book or newspaper or from another student at a college, and it's going to flag it. It's basically going to highlight where it's at in your paper, and then it's going to give me the stuff where you're getting it from. So you can't really come back and say, well, this person copied from me, especially if that particular source that you're using was written way before you were born. So this is going to happen in real time. So after you upload your paper, you may have to refresh or come back within an hour. That's why I probably wouldn't wait until the very last minute to upload your paper, because if you waited until Sunday at 11:50 and it takes an hour for it to go through this process, well, now it's close to 1 o'clock in the morning on Monday. And if there's a lot of stuff that's been, copied and pasted that you didn't properly cite, then you're sort of SOL at that point, because now it's past the deadline and you didn't have a chance to fix it. So you're going to just get it. I'm not even going to read the paper. I'm going to come here and look at it. And, if I see a whole bunch of stuff coming from Wikipedia and Cliff Notes and, your boyfriend's paper from high school 2 years ago or whatever the case may be, because all this stuff, it gets saved, it's archived. I find papers from 15 years ago from different colleges, not only in Georgia, but all over the states, all over the world for that matter. So if they're using Safe Assign or Turnitin, and they had to submit it at some point, whether it's in high school, middle school, college, it's going to be on you. If it's on the web, if it's online, guess what? We can find it. So I guess really in the end, it doesn't pay to cheat, it doesn't pay to plagiarize, and it doesn't pay to borrow or buy a paper. Because eventually you will get caught, and when you get caught, it's not going to be good for your grade. So please avoid doing that. That's why I give you the chance over the last 3 or 4 weeks to send me drafts, to get help with your citations, to ask questions if you attend these tutoring sessions, or just simply email me or call me. You also have the free Smart Thinking. All this stuff is free for you. You're just going to have to use your time wisely to get stuff in and to get help when you need help, because we can't read minds. So just be mindful of that. And you shouldn't have too many issues, as long as you cite your stuff correctly via MLA. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to come back out and go back to our course page. So I hope everything is clear and concise about what's on tap for this week, what you need to turn in, where you need to turn it in at, the page numbers you need to find and read in your e-text, and the stuff that's hyperlinked online. And to please avoid plagiarism. I sent out some stuff yesterday via email that talks a little bit more about that in-text parenthetical citation. If you haven't had a chance to look at your email, then I would definitely look at that before you start submitting any drafts or any final drafts, because it will be beneficial to you. All right, so week 5, again, you can kind of see the pages in your e-text that you need to kind of read. We have the hyperlinks to our last 2 stories, because week 6 we're going to start our 5-week unit on poetry. Because again, going back to week 1, remember each one of our units, which we do start off with short fiction, we start off, then go to poetry, and then finish off with drama. Each one of our units, our genre units, are 5 weeks in length. So 5 weeks of fiction, 5 weeks of poetry, and 5 weeks of drama. So week 6, basically 6 through, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, is basically going to be all poetry. And as it gets closer to week 6, I'll probably go ahead and open that folder up sometime next week. So if you want to go ahead and get ahead on some of the reading, you can do that as well. But week 5 is basically, it's going to be the fiction exam, right? And again, if you go back and look at those handouts or look at that directions and guidelines, we talked about what's going to be on the fiction exam. Anything is fair game, because by the time we get to week 5, we've read, I believe, 10 short fiction stories. And what I want to do is randomly pick, there's going to be, I think, 6 quotations, 6 passages on that particular test, and there's going to be a series of like 5 questions, and you have to answer those 5 questions based on that passage. So this is where the reading aspect is going to come back to haunt you. If you haven't caught up or kept up with the weekly reading, I hope you save the links so you can go back and kind of read and study and look at some of the, a bit longer passages or some of the more important passages that we talked about either on these discussions or in email or on these notes, because that's basically what the fiction exam is going to be about. You're going to have 75 minutes to complete the fiction exam. So once you hit begin, your 75 minutes starts then. Now you can go off and go to the bathroom, whatever you want to do, but keep in mind your time is ticking. So once you hit start, you have to finish it in that 75-minute period. There's no pausing, there's no restarting, there's no redoing. Once you start, I can't really do much after that. It's going to be on you. You're going to want to save your answers regularly and often. And, you want to make sure that you save everything before that 75-minute period elapses, because once it becomes 76, if you don't save, it's going to submit whatever is there. And if it's blank, it's going to be a 0. So make sure that you're saving your stuff. You're going to need this password. It's going to prompt you before you can actually begin. And I'll show you. If you click here, it runs down to some of the instructions. Please read the instructions carefully. You do have an hour and 15 minutes, basically 75 minutes. You have until the 26th to do this. Again, I would only start this exam if you're fully prepared. I mean, obviously, you're going to have to do it before 11:59 on the 26th. But I wouldn't start it tomorrow if you haven't read the 2 stories from next week. I wouldn't start it Friday if you don't really, haven't kept up really well with the reading. I would only start this if you're 100% confident that you can sit for 75 minutes and take the test. But at least, obviously you want to turn something in before the 26th, because you don't want to rack up a 0 either. So once you hit begin, it's going to ask you for that password. If you don't put that password in exactly how I have it, you're never going to be able to take the test. So remember, the password is right here. Everybody can find it if you get on Blackboard. It's not going to change. Now, the password for the poetry and the drama test and all that, they're going to be different. So you can't use the same password for each test. There's going to be different passwords. But as it relates to this fiction exam, you have to use that metabolism 12 exclamation point. If you don't have it typed that way, you're never going to be able to take the test. It's just going to keep kicking you out. So just be mindful of that. So if you have any questions, for those that are, if there's more than one person here, then we can talk a little bit, because in about 20 minutes I got another tutoring session with another class. But that's pretty much week 4 and week 5. And again, I think I got maybe 3 or 4 literary workshop pieces left to grade. For the most part, all the grades should be up to date. If you got a grade on your literary workshop already, then your grade's up to date until you turn in your fiction exam and your fiction paper. All right, I see that our caller left, and I guess nobody has any questions. I'm probably going to make my exit as well. Again, if you have any issues, any concerns, any questions, please email me. Please send me and Smart Thinking drafts before Friday midnight of this week, so we can help you get that essay grade up, to get your overall semester grade up. It's probably another thing that you want to be thinking about. And otherwise, I wish everybody good luck on week 4 stuff and on week 5. And we will do another tutoring session probably around the same time next Tuesday. So have a good weekend and a good week. Thanks.